turn my mic on. Good evening. I'm calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the July 17th, 2017 meeting of the Gaston County Board of Education. I am Kevin Collier, the chairman, and Mr. Ramsey is not present, and tonight I'm not sure if he'll be here later, and Mr. Howe will not be here this evening as well. And I'm going to start to my right. Ms. Guthrie is not going to be here as well. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
Leave that in Gaston Township, and I'm here.
Terry Usry, Cherryville Township.
Catherine Roberts, Dallas Township.
Brent Moore, Crowders Mountain Township.
Dot Cherry, at-large member.
Thank you, and on behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. And at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Booker for our invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. Let us pray. We thank you for everyone gathered here today, oh God. We thank you that you know each of us by name and have caused us to continue the great work of your service in our community. We confess that we are nothing without you and your power, and we trust in you completely. Please guide us and give us direction as we meet. Allow us to surrender ourselves to you, all who are holy, and we ask that you fill us with your grace and truth, and may your presence be felt in this meeting. Amen. If you'll join me standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next item is to adopt the agenda. Everybody has the agenda before them. I need a motion to adopt it. Motion by Mr. Dedman, second by Ms. Cherry. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show by raising your hand. And it's unanimous amongst the members that are here. Ms. Luato. Mr. Booker, good news.
Thank you, sir. Typically, on a night like tonight, we would have several students with us, some administrators, but we still have good news even though those folks are on vacation. I wanted to point out to you that our school nutrition department won 4 state awards at the recent School Nutrition Association banquet in Greensboro. In the culinary arts baking competition, Jill Brackett of Cherryville High School and Pearlie Croft of John Chavis Middle School earned first place awards for their entries. Additionally, Joni Curvin received the Martha Gomer Spirit Award, which honors an outstanding school nutrition supervisor in North Carolina. And the school nutrition department as a whole earned the prestigious Lunch Bell Award for its efforts to promote school nutrition in the media. The award recognizes the media coverage of U.S. Senator Tom Tillis' visit to Belmont Central Elementary School in February of 2016. So for many of us, we know how hard our school nutrition folks work, and it's great to see them recognized for the job that we know they do every day. Yes, Mr.
I would love if we could get the pictures to put on our website.
Great.
How about a sample of their cooking?
In the summer is where a lot of our kids go to the national conferences related to the state conference. Hunter Huss had 3 students win awards at the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America State Conference. Alan Greer, Tazara Simon, and Essence Currents captured 3rd place in the Food Innovations competition. They were challenged to make an after-workout snack with 10 grams of protein in it, and they created a protein pancake that they called Power Cakes. As state winners, they went on to represent us in the national competition in Nashville, Tennessee. We also, this past week, were recognized for our participation in the School Tools campaign that is run by WSOC in Charlotte. Our successful Stuff That Bus program was highlighted as a way to engage the entire community in school supplies collection. Many of you know that's a partnership between Office Depot and Gastonia that involves school personnel, local celebrities who stand outside the store, encourage people to fill one of our classic orange school buses, old number 1 that you see in the parades, gets parked out there. So we wanted to remind everybody that this year we'll do the same event on August the 10th from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. We hope that we'll exceed last year's collection of more than 25,000 items. We talk a lot about how great our kids are and the things that they learn beyond books. We learned last week that the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society recognized one of our schools as the top fundraising middle school in all of the state of North Carolina. Stanley Middle School collected $8,000 for a penny collection fundraiser. That was the most out of 600 schools in the state. So that's a pretty impressive thing. So we want to take a moment to recognize Stephanie Davis, who is the coordinator of that fundraising effort at Stanley Middle, and we thank the school and the community for the spirit of caring and giving. So that's a really neat thing that went on. Also, we had a Highland student, Mary Jo Martin, who is a national award winner. She attended the Technology Student Association's National Conference and came in second place for her computer-aided design engineering. So we wanted to congratulate her on this achievement. And finally, we have with us, and we're going to show it tonight, another national winner. Tom Nassetti produced 12 years ago as a video that highlighted the retiring of our WA Best elementary teacher, Jill Nichols, and the seniors of the class of 2016, which were in her kindergarten class the year she was Teacher of the Year. So I'd like to ask Tom if he would show that for us now.
Nichols because she was me.
Miss Nichols really did make a strong impact in my life and made me who I am today.
I like Miss Nichols because she loves us and she teaches us.
I love the bear that we got to take home when we were like the student of the week, and we like wrote in our little journal like what we did with the bear and all that. It was really cool.
I like Miss Nichols because she helps me.
This year I didn't realize quite how much teachers did do until I was a peer helper for a teacher in one of my other classes this year. And it kind of made me think back on, all my teachers over the years and just really made me appreciate everything that they do that we don't realize that they do for us.
She teaches us to read and write.
And I feel like a lot of my successes came from having such a great support base, starting with teachers like Miss Nichols, who just care about you and embrace you, and you know that they'll love you forever and always.
The kids are even too small,
I can't believe Linnea is graduating. It just seems like yesterday we were in this hallway meeting Miss Nichols for the first time. I would like to tell all of my children's teachers, thank you for all your hard work, your dedication, your energy, that it all really does make a difference.
It's really special to be able to be a part of that and to be able to see these grown-up kids and see that you maybe have an impact in their future. I mean, not many professions can do that at all. They're a product of not just kindergarten, but every grade throughout their whole school years. In the system, it shows. They're a little bit from each teacher, but now they're going on and they're going to take what they learned here. And to be able to say that you were a part of that, I mean, that's something very spectacular. I don't know of any other place or job that can say that. Being a teacher is just a great thing. Oh, you could be a teacher too. You're good at it. This is my last year teaching. This is my 30th year. I'm retiring this year. I love my time that I put into this county. It's truly hard to leave because teaching has been a big part of my life. Right hand in your lap. Left hand to the window, left hand in your lap, and have a when they are happy and they're proud of themselves, that is the most gratitude you could ever get as an adult, is to see that these little kids, that you've made a difference in their life. And you know, I just love them. I've always loved them. She held him, she sang, I love you forever, I'll like you for always, long as I'm living, my baby will be.
That's pretty cool. That's really nice.
And that was a great piece of work that Mr. Nancetti came up with and thought about the historical documents that he had and that class would be graduating. And what's really impressive in that class was the valedictorian of Forest View High School, several students who received full academic scholarships to colleges, and several folks that went on to careers that they've already started. So it just shows that we have great people doing great things. And our community benefits from this. And I think as Dr. Maddox and her team are trying to find teachers to show them the impact and the respect we have for what they do is impressive. And so that concludes our good news, Mr. Chairman. I think Ms. Sherry had a great point. If you're okay, might try to invite the folks when we're back at work that were here tonight and let them be recognized for their accomplishments. So, but thank you for allowing me to share that good news.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. The next item is public expression. We do have one citizen who signed up to speak. I'm going to read the rules of procedure. As citizens wishing to make comment and have completed a request to speak form will be recognized by the chair and then requested to step to the microphone for their comments. Please state your name and address for the record. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The members of the board do not respond to public expression during public expression. Public expression does not allow for comments on confidential or personnel matters. The chair shall rule on all points of order during public expression. The first citizen we have to speak is Mr. Alan Franks.
My name is Alan Franks. I live at 230 Mount Meadows Drive in Bessemer City. And I'd just like to thank y'all for giving me an opportunity to speak. I want to speak to you on athletic eligibility for transfer students. I understand the 365-day sit rule, and which I understand the need to have restrictions in place to prevent schools from recruiting. But in the case of my son, who's received a transfer from Bessemer City to North Gaston, his primary sports are soccer and wrestling. And to my understanding, soccer and wrestling are not offered at Bessemer City. And I would just like to see a sixth waiver added to the policy that would allow students in his position to at least participate in those sports that are not offered at the transfer school, that are not offered at the assigned school. Because if the rule's in place for recruiting, then there's no recruiting to take place. And I just don't think the students should have to sit out 365-day rules if recruiting's not involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franks. All right, the next item on our agenda is the summer project list and new construction updates. For information, Mr. Hoskins.
Thank you, Chairman Collier, members of the board, Superintendent Booker. Thank you for allowing us this time to talk about our summer projects update. A lot of times when you tell people you work with the school system, they think nothing's going on during the summer, but actually it's the busiest time of year for a lot of people, including the school custodians, our facilities staff, and we use a lot of third-party vendors, which we have to align and try to reserve in March and April in order to prepare for these projects in the summer. A couple of projects I want to highlight. We have updated 2 of our media centers. This one is Southwest Middle School. We have a before and after here. We did some touch-up paint here, replaced the carpeting, and replaced the furniture. The other media center that we've been working on, Southwest Middle School, is complete, and this one is Cherryville Elementary School. We're adding an HVAC system to the media center. The whole media center is being painted, new carpet, and we're waiting on the furniture with this particular project right now. It should be completed before the teachers return from summer break. Also, we've been working on parking lots. This is a picture of Ashbrook. We replaced about 100 feet. Ashbrook is to the right in this picture, where all the students come through. There's a lot of potholes there. The subsurface was to the point where we couldn't continue to patch it. We had to just totally repave this portion. We're working on the potholes at Cherryville High School, South Point High School, Gardner Park as well, just replacing the potholes or filling in the potholes at those schools. We're also working on some mobile classrooms. This is a picture of the mobile classroom at South Point. We are sealing the roof on these mobile units, painting the sides. We'll be replacing the underpinning. A lot of times the weeds grow up near the underpinning. The weed eaters over time sort of eat away at the bottom of that underpinning, so we'll be replacing some of that and putting mulch around the perimeter so that won't need to be weed eated. So this is South Point. We're also doing Bessemer City, which has, I think, 1 or 2. Also working on 4 of our high school gyms. Typically, every single school, the gym floors and the floors in the auditorium, will screen them and revarnish them. We're actually sanding these floors, doing the repainting the logo and the lines, and then varnishing them. It's Highland, Ashbrook, Forest View, and I think it's Bessemer City. And this is a picture of before and after Highland, and this is before and after Ashbrook. And actually, Ashbrook was not painted because it was painted a couple years ago. So just, you can see the difference in the color of the floor, and that's really taking that varnish off and sanding down to the wood, and you see the actual color of the wood. We replaced the lights in the gyms a couple years ago with, I think it's T8s, or a higher, brighter, more efficient method of lighting. Coupled with this lighter floor is going to really look good come basketball season and volleyball season. Also, Bessemer City High School, in their auditorium, I asked Mr. Irby if this top picture, if the lights were on, and he said yes. But we did a lighting project in the auditorium. We've replaced it with LED lights, and that's sort of what we're moving towards now, is the LED. They're actually, the price is coming down, and they're more cost efficient, so we're switching to that when we do lighting projects. But you can see the difference these LED lights make in the Bessemer City auditorium at the high school. This is just some pictures that Chip and his crew and we've been able to gather over the last couple of days. There's a lot of projects going on throughout the county. WC Friday, working on some bathroom partitions. I think we got the women's or girls done last year. We're doing the boys this year. New intercom systems. There's several schools. We're replacing carpet and paint, mainly HH Beam in Springfield. McCaddenville and York Chester, we're doing drop ceilings with the new lighting, the LED lighting in the hallways for the kids because it's really dark and dingy, especially York Chester. We really want to brighten that up, and some work over at Hunter Huss, just putting bollards up at the stadium to try to control traffic and so forth. So that's just a sampling of some of the things that are going on, but you know, as you all know, the 2 biggest projects that we have going on are the 2 new schools. And a lot of times when we talk about the new schools, everybody's thinking the architects and the contractors and the subcontractors are doing a lot of the work, but really every department in this school has been actively involved in getting this project completed, from facilities working on trying to move out the old furniture and try to get the old school prepared to be demolished. TSS ordering all the technology, getting the cabling. They'll be testing and making sure everything's working. Curriculum and instruction, as you know, this is our new magnet program, so that takes a lot of their time. I know we've seen media center people there just about every time that I go there. They've been working on preparing that and having that ready. Of course, communications with the groundbreaking and soon to come the grand opening on August 20th. They'll be working there. And of course, school nutrition. They're going to have a whole new kitchen. They're going to need to test all the equipment, make sure everything's working, and get their system going. And finally, finance, working on the POs, keeping the money moving, working on ordering the furniture and so forth. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Danny Garrett, who is our bond project manager. He's been working intimately with both of these schools, just to give you an update.
Thank you, Chairman Collier, Superintendent Booker, board members. As you can see on this slide, this is Stanley Middle School. This is artist rendering before we ever broke ground. And if you look at that picture, it looks pretty close. And the bricks, all the bricks up now all the way around. They're preparing the front parking lot for pavement. The rear parking, which is Bus Drive, that's already got base pavement. Road widening has been done, with the exception of the final coat. And this is sort of the grand entry area of it. You can see where we're at. It's going to be pretty high ceiling at that point. And we're doing a lot of the infrastructure. You can see the water lines already in with the white insulation. We got structured cabling going in now for all the data, intercom cameras, things like that. Sprinkler systems. So they've been working hard in their cafeteria. This would be the new cafeteria, kind of looking towards the kitchen area, another high area, and we'll be using LED lighting on all high bay areas in both schools, things that are hard to get to. And Pleasant Ridge is obviously a little further along, since we're going to be opening next month. And have got the front parking lot paved as of today, actually, and they'll be striping it probably by the end of the week. We've been air conditioning it for almost a month now, trying to get the humidity down so we can get our flooring in. And this is a typical upper class room with the floor in. We are not using anything that required wax in this school, nowhere. We're using all no wax LVT. We're using a carpet, obviously, in the office and media center, and then terrazzo in the hallways and cafeteria. This is sort of a typical kindergarten room with a little bit more cabinet space and bathrooms. This is a typical hallway you're seeing now. It's already got the ceilings, lighting. Bathrooms are pretty much ready to go. We got paper on the floors to protect them, but they're finishing up the floors as far as terrazzo. The cafeteria is complete. Multi-purpose room is probably 95%. They're getting ready to seal it now. So that's it.
Board members, any questions or comments about the summer projects or the two new construction? Mr. Dedman.
I have just one. Mr. Hoskins, I'm just curious. The middle schools, 8 of them, the strip and wax. Are we helping the custodians there because they don't have custodian help at those schools?
It depends on the school. Some schools have had custodians that have had health problems. Some of them have deteriorated to the point where we've needed to step in and help. So it's really on a case by case, but traditionally the school will be responsible for stripping and waxing their floors during the summer.
That's fine that you do that. I'm glad that you're helping them out.
Mr. Hoskins, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How are we as far as budget on the new construction of both schools?
Both schools, we have allowances on both budgets. The allowance for Pleasant Ridge, which is obviously the closest to completion, will be well under that allowance. The allowance for Stanley is a little tighter, and we have, of course, a little longer to go. So but we've tried to be fairly conservative in our estimates. A lot of the things that we've been projecting on Stanley, we've been fairly, high in our guesses, and we haven't taken any credits back. So we certainly believe we'll be under for both of those, and certainly under for the consolidated two of those projects.
So in short, today, we're under budget on both
Yes,
projects?
both, yes.
Okay. How about our time on both projects?
Well, Pleasant Ridge, we were supposed to have that, a week or two ago, so we're a little bit behind there. We have a lot to do. I mean, we've got almost all the furniture there on site. As Mr. Garrett said, we've got to get a couple of the floors down. The humidity on the floor has slowed us down a little bit. I know TSS is chomping at the bit to be able to come in there and start adding their technology, but we're going to open August 28th, and we're going to be ready for the teachers when they come. It's going to be busy, but that's what happens, and we'll be ready for it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hoskins.
And the other one is certainly scheduled for January with no expectations to change that.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Mr. Hoskins, if you'll stay there, you're up for our next agenda item.
Okay.
2017-2018 budget update.
All right, thank you. Since we met last month, the General Assembly has approved the state budget. And when I say the General Assembly, I do mean the General Assembly. It was vetoed by the governor, and they overrode the veto, and effective, I think, June 29th, which is the first time that I've been here that a budget's ever been approved before the fiscal year ends. So with that, we're right on schedule. We're going to be presenting you with the final budget resolution at our next regular meeting on August 20th, I believe. So just wanted to go over some of the final items that are in the state budget. And of course, some of them are to our benefit and some are not. One of the things that is helpful to us is that they've increased the funding cap for the children with disabilities. That cap was 12.5%. They bumped it to 12.75, and we're actually transitioning a little bit over the 12.5% cap, somewhere between 12.5% and 13%. So that will help reimburse us for some money that we've had to fund locally. Also, our Gaston Early College is part of a college and career Promise Magnet program that the state has been supporting and encouraging for a number of years. However, they have not been giving us any funding over the last couple of years. There's a number of these programs throughout the state, and a lot of those programs were getting over $300,000 a year, and we were getting nothing. So now they've sort of evened the playing field and are giving everybody, at least a Tier 2, which is what we are, $200,000. So that's helpful to us because we've been using our state allotment teachers and other state funding sources to help pay for our Gaston Early College, so that'll be helpful to us. They have increased the employer-paid benefits, roughly up from 16.5% to just over 17%, and health insurance premiums are up about $200. That will come out of our local money for those locally paid employees, and the state will cover that for state-paid employees. They also gave a special annual leave bonus of 3 days. Typically, you see this when there's no increase in employer compensation. This time, we did get an increase in compensation pretty much across the board, and also these 3 bonus days. So that's certainly good for our employees. However, they did reduce our flexibility to transfer funds from 4 specific funding sources, and that's Department of Exceptional Children, AIG, which is academically and intelligently gifted, limited English program, and textbooks. And 2 of these will come into effect next year, not this current year, and that's AIG and textbooks. So what we do is we get about 20 sources of funds from the state, and then we're able to move those funds based on the needs of our district. So having that flexibility is very helpful to be able to address the specific needs that Gaston County has that maybe other school districts don't have. So that will limit our ability a little bit in how we handle that. They also implemented a 7.4% reduction in central office funding. That's just over $100,000, $120,000 this year, and then 11.6% next year. So that's we'll feel the impact of that both this year and next year. And also, they continue to reduce funding for DPI this year by 6.2%. DPI is generally a positive source of helping us to manage the funding of this district because they see how everybody else is doing and they can help provide insight to us. So as they continue to cut the support staff from DPI, then we're sort of on our own a little bit more and more every year, it seems like. And then the main thing is there's been significant changes in compensation. So we'll talk about teachers and certified personnel. Those are in one category. Principals, assistant principals, again, the first time we've had any major compensation changes to those groups in the last several years. Central office and non-certified personnel, and then bus drivers. So teachers, as you know, the past couple of years, the General Assembly has been fairly aggressive in moving up the teacher salary base for beginning teachers. That now sits at $35,000 a year. That's the $3,500 a month for 10 months. They paid very little or less attention to the teachers that have more experience or moderate experience. So this year, they did focus some of those increases, and it's an average of 3.3% increase. They focused that on teachers that had more experience, because you can see the new teacher amount of $3,500 did not change. So that was a 0% increase for those beginning teachers. They also maintained the salary supplements for teachers with national board certifications, master's degrees, doctorate degrees, and certifications such as nursing certifications, and also other supplements for some of the other certified employees. Last year was the first year that we had these teacher bonuses, and these bonuses were for third grade EOG scores. It was for how students performed on AP and IB exams and also CTE exams. This year, they're going to make those changes permanent. So last year was, I guess, a trial period. This year is now permanent. And they added math teachers in grades 4 through 8 to that bonus pool, and also reading teachers in 4th and 5th grade. So they're trying to expand that so it's not just third grade, at least at the elementary level. And they provide a $385 retention bonus to teachers with 25 or more years experience. On the local side, as you know, the county commissioners did provide an extra $500,000 for local salary supplements for certified employees. That averages $185 per employee. So if you look at over the last 4 years, what this board, along with the county commissioners, have done is added $2.2 million in local salary supplements, which comes to just over $800 per employee for those teachers and certified employees over 4 years. The principals did have a very, the existing or the previous principal salary schedule was very confusing and had a lot of carryovers, ABC schools and safe schools and terminology and programs that no longer exist. So what they did is they created a new 5-tier salary schedule. And these tiers are based solely on ADM, which is the size of the school, number of students in the school, and the school growth scores. And it's only for schools that meet or exceed their growth. In doing so, they eliminated separate longevity payments. If you recall, a couple years ago, they did this with teachers, and their rationale was that we added this back to the new salary schedule, and that's what they're saying here. Also, there is no supplemental pay based on experience or advanced degrees. So a teacher with 25 years' experience will be paid the same on the state scale as a teacher with 2 years' experience if they're at the same size school and they have the same growth for principals.
Mr. Hoskins, I don't mean to interrupt you, but so in other words, if I go out and get a doctor's degree, there's no differentiation on the pay?
Not from the state level, that's correct.
That's going to make a big difference.
Right.
Okay.
Now, the state did agree to hold harmless the principal salaries for this current year, so you will not, from a state standpoint, have any decrease in pay over what you made last year. So you got paid longevity last year, you're not getting paid longevity this year, but you can't make less this year than you made last year. So they are protected, at least for this coming year. In addition, they created 2 bonus pools, and you can see where the General Assembly is sort of moving towards bonus pay over longevity pay. They've done it with teachers, and now they're starting to do that with principals. The first bonus pool, half of the principals in the state will be able to participate in this because it's for the top 50% of school growth in the state based on last year's numbers. So 50% of the principals will get this, and this bonus pool or this bonus payment has 5 tiers, and it's from $1,000 to $5,000 and $1,000 increments. So $5,000 would be if you're in the top 10%, or 5%, you're going to get the $5,000. If you're 50 to 60%, you'll get the lower end, the $1,000. But that's how it's designated. And again, it'll be based on last year's numbers. DPI will be telling us, which principals qualified for this, and we will have these bonuses paid in October of this year. The second bonus pool will be only for those principals who supervise the same school for the last 2 years and move that school from met or not met growth to exceeded growth. So again, the first year they didn't meet growth, the second year they exceeded growth. And those bonuses, there's 2 amounts, $5,000 and $10,000. It's a little tricky here, but if your school was rated a D or F in the previous year, and then this year, when I say this year, the year that they're measuring the growth, which will be 2015-16, 2016-17, if they now exceed growth, then you get the higher bonus. So it's going to be a little complicated, but again, DPI will be assisting us and telling us which principals will be afforded these bonuses, and these will be paid also in October of this year.
Can I ask one more question? I'm sorry, Mr. Hoskins, and I really apologize.
Sure. No.
So I'm a principal of the school, and I get into the first bonus, and I make $5,000. But if I'm a principal of a school that's not doing very well, and we do really well, I'll make $10,000.
Depends on the school growth.
But I'm talking about the growth. Okay.
Yeah, when you say doing very well,
I just want to make sure when I, okay, understand.
The grade,
Right.
you could grow, but still be lower
Exactly.
grade.
Right.
Not get the 10, you get the 5.
And did they understand that some principals will want to, okay.
And I'm assuming that if we move a principal, that they're gonna use the data of the school that they were
It says
in.
they have to
Because
be
we've
there
run into that
2
with.
years.
With,
They have to be there 2 years, that's correct.
Teacher.
And it says supervised for a majority of the
Third
years.
grade already.
And this doesn't stay on their site. This is just a 1 year, every year shot. It doesn't stay on your salary forever.
Correct, and this bonus is similar to the teacher bonus last year. I think it's non-recurring, but I expect that it may become recurring. Now, this is a biennial budget, so it's for the next
Right,
2 years.
Sorry, thanks.
Sure. Assistant principal schedule was also pretty much drastically changed by the state starting this year. Their salary schedule will be the same as a teacher salary schedule on Schedule A plus 17%. So those teachers' salary schedules do include steps for experience. which the principal schedule does not. And it's 17% for this year, and then it moves up to 19% for next year. They will continue to get the supplement for a 6-year degree or master's and a doctoral degree.
For the assistant principals, not the principals?
That is correct.
That makes absolutely 0 sense.
I agree.
I mean,
Right.
okay.
The one consistency between the two is that they also eliminated separate longevity payments with the explanation that those were rolled into the new salary schedule. And also these people, these assistant principals will be held harmless, just like principals. So they will not make less this year than they made last year. Non-certified employees will receive...
Mr. Hoskins, if you back up, but assistant principals will not participate in a bonus program.
That's correct.
Okay.
Not yet. Non-certified employees, that'll be your clerical, your school nutrition, your central office maintenance facilities employees, will get a $1,000 increase in their salary. That is not one time, it is a permanent amount, and it's for full-time 12-month employees, and it's prorated for those employees who are not full-time and not 12 months. So if you're 10 months, you would get 10/12 of that amount. This does exclude bus drivers because they created a separate pool for bus drivers, and we'll talk about that in just a second. And this will be effective starting July 1st of this year. With bus drivers, the state created about a $17 million pool for bus drivers, and roughly we're about 2% of state, with 2% of the ADM of the state, so just allocating 2% of that amount, we should expect around $300,000. We don't have that funding yet. We're getting together a group with HR, finance, and transportation to get together and try to come up with a plan to propose to this board on how we handle that distribution, but it should be across-the-board increases in the hourly rates, and we'll be coming to you with that as soon as we can. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hoskins, that was quite a bit of information. Board members, any additional questions or comments?
Good job, Mr. Hoskins, trying to explain that.
Okay. All right, the next item on our agenda is the iReady progress monitoring. Dr. Balknight.
Good evening, Chairman Collier, Superintendent Booker, and board members. Tonight, I would like to share information with you as we continue to provide support to students. This board talks a lot with the staff about finding ways to meet the needs of students, and this is an additional support measure. So I'll share a brief presentation with you about this program. Progress monitoring. We've talked a lot about this in our instruction committee and with the board. It's important for us to work with all students and find where their specific needs are and then develop a pathway for those students. So with this program, we will be able to develop database decisions on students using a program that will support them, as well as training. In fact, lots of our teachers have participated and staff in training already this summer on working through the progress monitoring, and this would be the vehicle that we would utilize. And this will also monitor the growth of our students, which would support, as Mr. Hoskins just talked about, the growth for the school throughout the school year so that principals can determine where they need to do some refresher, provide some more intense support, and other things. So the purpose of progress monitoring, again, is to help educators identify skill deficits for students that are essential to academic success. It will implement research-based interventions. So it's not, this is what I think may work. This is a very prescribed program that will remove some of the guessing out of what do we need to do to make children successful. So another support for the teachers in the classroom that have so many things to work through with students. It will also monitor academic growth over the school year so we can measure where do we start with a student and where did we end with the student as well. So as you can see from the visual, it will collect data. It will take that data, we'll develop a plan with knowledge, and then we'll take action immediately. And the beauty of the program is that it'll be a quick turnaround, so it'll be immediate support for the student. It won't be a delay or I need to wait to pull the student. So this program, iReady, is very adaptive and it will effectively pinpoint students' needs down to the sub-skill level. So for example, when a teacher says that your student struggles with comprehension, well, that's still very broad in reading. It will take it to the next level to give you very specific things that they struggle in with comprehension, so we can really focus on and pinpoint that specific skill that we could spend a couple days on to get the child back on track to be successful, so we don't lose a year of reading comprehension because the child is not able to catch up with the class. It is also aligned with our North Carolina standards, and it will provide data-driven insight to the teacher, to the teacher team, and to the leadership team in the school as well, and it's also the district. We'll use the data as well. We'll review that with cabinet on a monthly basis in a dashboard report to talk about what do we need to do to support schools as well. Questions?
Dr. Barton, I would add, this is an outgrowth of work that was started 2 years ago. I believe you had focus groups
Yes.
and all that.
Yes, sir. We constantly review products to use within the district. We have brought teachers in and district staff as well, and this is a program that continues to rise to the top as a preferred product for teachers because they feel that it'll give them the specific need. So instead of having to look at 3 or 4 different programs to develop a recipe or a pathway for a student, it's one product that will provide the resource.
And we spent a lot of time, as you all know, we did a math adoption this year. One of the few districts in the state, maybe the only, that did that. And in doing that, we looked not only at our performance, we looked at the top performing districts across the state, both from proficiency and growth, and then visited and researched what methodologies they were using in the different products. And this was one of the products that was consistent across the groups. That's part of what you're seeing, the outgrowth of that research.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dedman.
Dr. Balton, what students will this target? Will this target the whole school system? Or will
This will target elementary and middle school students as we continue to work on our multi-tiered systems of support
just those two.
with those levels.
My follow-up is just, how much, I'm a student, so you're going to have to test me at some point. How much testing time do you have to get these students to find out where they are? I mean, is it?
The assessment is about 15 minutes, but one of the things that we've worked through based on feedback from staff within the district, teachers, and also the instruction committee, we're reducing the number of assessments. So this will replace some of the assessments that we are already delivering to students, but it'll still be a smaller number than they've had in the past.
All right. Thank you.
Ms. Roberts.
Okay, I'm a parent. I'm hearing assessment, and so that's all I'm going to hear. So I'm going to ask about STAR, I'm going to ask about M-Class, and I'm going to say, why are we doing this?
Okay.
To me, it sounds like, as a parent perspective, so I'm just going to ask the same things they are.
Great question.
Why are we adding another assessment?
Mm-hmm.
Is this iReady not giving you the same data that STAR and M-Class is already giving you? Because is that not things, are these not the things that we've spoken about in our curriculum committee? So what's the difference?
Great question, Ms. Robertson. Thank you for bringing that point up. We are going to replace STAR with iReady, so there won't be duplication of services. One of the things, as Mr. Booker talked about, as we look throughout the state, this gives us an additional layer of support for teachers because their day is full. So for them to have to work with STAR and then find resources, this will provide some readily available resources for them, so that'll remove a step out of meeting the needs of the students. M-Class is something that the state requires us to utilize with reading in grades K-3 and then also for specific students in 4th grade. But this will be a K-8 product, so that will be the difference. Because we need to have something very consistent so that as a child moves from 4th grade to 5th grade to 6th grade, we can look at a pattern. I had some conversations with parents in the spring about a 3-year trend of they were concerned about where their child ended up at the end of 7th grade with their EOG scores. We were able to look at historical data, and this will be a part of that to say, while they're not where you would like for them to be, look at all the growth and progress that they've made, so we can celebrate that. So we are replacing STAR with iReady, so that was a great.
STAR is going away
Yes,
completely.
ma'am. Yes, other than to use it for accelerated reader, that component, but the assessment piece of STAR is going away.
So it's only there for accelerated reader?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And the follow-up to Ms. Roberts' question, that's effective this year?
That would be effective this upcoming school year.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? This is an action item, so I'll need a vote. First, I'll need a motion. So moved by Mr. Ushery, second by Ms. Cherry. With no other questions or comments, all in favor, show by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Balknight. If you'll stay right there, you have the next item.
Okay.
Student wellness policy.
Yes, sir, and as I'm pulling the presentation up, this has been a group effort that we worked on for quite some time, including our board member, Mr. Ussery, who serves on our SHAC committee. I have with me tonight Philip Ratchford, who is our community health liaison, Betty Worthy, our director of health services, and also Mr. Duncan, who was not able to attend tonight, our director of athletics. They've all worked on this policy, as well as many teachers and other members of the team within the district. So this is a state-required policy change, but we've also looked through our practices with our policy to align our practices with the new policy recommendations. So for clarification and ease of read, I have provided with you a summary or a brief section of the policy. As you can see, the strike through, the changes here are simply we're going from may to shall, with school principals shall establish rules for foods and beverages brought from home for classrooms. We're already doing that across the district and have been for several years. Mr. Fields talked about this very extensively in his presentation in the June board meeting. And so again, we're making these changes. In your chair, I provided for you smart snacks. You'll see that list of smart snacks, and it's a grid. It's that colorful grid and has the board policy. On the left-hand side of that handout, those empty holes in color, those basically reflect empty calories. So for example, a soft drink, the empty calories are up at the top, and so you see you get very few calories that are meaningful from a soft drink. And so the smart snack side shows you that if you eat a peanut, for example, you can use all of the calories from the peanut for healthy nutrition. So that's the transition that they're requesting. So when you see the verbiage smart snacks, that was already in the policy, but we've added in schools. The language that's been changed is the in schools piece. And again, here you see another underlined section and the changes here. It talks about the food and beverages available at schools. It talks about utilizing or not utilizing logos that promote necessarily unhealthy soft drinks during the school day. So that's something that we've been doing for a long time here in Gaston County. You walk through our schools now and you'll see very few regular soft drink machines. You'll see a lot of water, diet, soft drinks, and those sorts of things. I'm sure Mr. Essery and Mr. Dedman can talk about that.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, and I'm totally all for healthy foods, no question about it. But what really gripes a principal, especially of a secondary school, is that we can have all these programs that you have to have good snacks and you have to have no drinks sold, but little Johnny can come in with a Slurpee that's that big, and he can come in with honey buns and everything else. At some point, we might want to think about not allowing children to bring stuff to school like that. I don't want to be the one to bring that up. It should be somebody else. But I mean, they stop at the convenience store and they spend all that, and we turn right around in school. I just think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot, and not you. I just think overall, I mean, I think we need to be healthy and we need to have great programs, but we also need to have some common sense about what you can eat inside of a schoolhouse and what you can't. So that's my 2 cents worth. I mean, it would be nice if we just said you can't bring anything from home, and we just gave everybody a water to drink. Everybody's laughing, but what do you think, Ms. Roberts, as a parent? Could you live with that one? No, I'm just saying, you're a parent, and you're the only one that has children in school on this board right now. Could you look at your child and say, hey, you can't take a drink to school anymore because we're not selling them there, and we're not selling bad snacks, but if you want to take something that's healthy, could you support that? Turn your mic on when you answer that. Because you are the only one that has a child there.
I just think it's a slippery slope when you try to tell parent what they need to tell their children to do at home.
But the government's telling us what we have to do in our schools.
The government's telling us what we can do in our school.
Yeah, I don't see the difference.
That we stay out of them at home. Yeah.
All right. So you did answer yes or no. Yes or no. Could you support that?
Don't tell me what to tell me what to tell my child at home.
All right. 10-4. I'm done.
So.
Stay in that chair and I'll stay in my house.
So these are the changes to our policy. Again, we already had this policy. We actually were doing more than the original policy required, so we're well on our way with this. So we take this seriously. Mr. Fields does an excellent job, and he's talked with you quite a bit about the changes in our cafeterias. He's had, I think, tasting of those foods before in the past. And so also with our shack and our health services, we work, and we just model for families because, as you know, Gaston County and North Carolina, we do have an obesity issue with children, and that's one of the things that they're working to address across the country. So that's the impetus for these changes in the policy. Any additional questions?
Mr. Devlin, we are following state board policy with this, and it is an action item, like it or not.
I have no problem with it. I'm just saying, we say you can't bring stuff in school, you can't sell it, you can't have it, but therefore you can bring anything in the door that you want. Okay? I mean, it doesn't make any common sense to me.
Well, it also hurts, as you said, in high school, the revenue.
Oh, I mean, schools
of what they sell at concession stands during ball games and everything else.
We were selling drinks for $1 when the convenience store was selling them for $1.69. So it was much better to buy them at our school, and you only had to pay 50 cents to the company. And that financed a lot of stuff, a lot of instructional stuff for the kids at schools. But, hey, I'm sure that the government is better than we do.
Okay, this is an action item. I'll need a motion and a second.
I'd like to make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Dedman, second by Ms. Cherry.
Wholly. I was just saying, I was bringing up some points.
Well, thank you for the discussion. Any more comments or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show by raising your hand. And it's unanimous.
This is going to have an implication for our principals in terms of getting this information into the hands of parents. So are we going to do this by way of the student handbook? Or are we going to do this by way of the district providing the information to the schools to disseminate like we do a lot of other material that we do at the first of the school year?
Mr. Usher, we have already, Mr. Fields and staff, they've already worked together to provide that handout to each of the schools, and we've made copies, so they won't even have to make.
There's really nothing a whole lot different here except
Right,
one word. Okay?
right.
I mean, we're doing exactly what we're saying. It's just semantics.
But the informational documents to send home to families, we've taken care of providing that to schools, yes, sir. So the principals will not even have to make the copies.
Good question. Okay. The next item is our consent agenda. One of the items down there, if you notice in the consent agenda, is the abatement contract for the old Pleasant Ridge Elementary School. I just wanted to point out that on our June 19th meeting, you gave the superintendent and the chair the authorization to enter into contracts. There was no need for us to enter into any contracts without this board having to meet. You're voting on this one particular contract, which was the biggest one that was on the horizon tonight. So I just wanted to bring that up, that we had no need to enter into any kind of contracts. Mr. Dedman. Motion by Mr. Dedman, second by Mr. Ushery. Any more questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, show by raising your hand. And it's unanimous. Mr. Booker, that brings us to superintendent comments.
Thank you, sir. I would like to point out we have a great summer reading program that got underway last week. It's being housed at 7 school locations across the county. Brookside, Lingerfelt, North Belmont, Sadler, Sherwood, Springfield, and Tryon are all serving as hosts of the 4-week program that is intended to boost our reading proficiency for students in grades 1 through 3. It offers small group and one-on-one instruction with activities that are academic-based, but also we try to have some fun and engaging time with the students. I was able to get out to a couple of the schools and see what's going on, and just like last year, it is great, and it's an example of partnership throughout the community. Library is working with us, and it's really something we see our children improve their literacy skills. It's also been proven to help with the backslide that we know can go on when children aren't engaged during the summer in learning. So we're very excited about that. Yes, ma'am. Brookside, Lingerfelt, North Belmont, Sadler, Sherwood, Springfield, and Tryon. Well, the last time we were together, I talked about how many days. So if we had that clock running, you would know that it is 42 days, a little over a month, until we'll be welcoming back students for the 2017-18 academic year. There's a lot going on. Mr. Hoskins highlighted some of it. We've got a new elementary school to open, but we've also launched a Gifted and Talented Academy. We have a virtual academy that is still going through the application process. A lot of professional development is going on. I have been able to get out to, today we had a 4-6 hour event going on at Forest View with the majority of our elementary and middle school, over 200 teachers in attendance, with some dynamic, really engaging professional development. It will continue throughout the summer. A lot of things go on that, as Mr. Hoskins pointed out, folks think they take the summer off. Really, our educators never break. They continue working and growing. They're great. When you talk about our vision statement about lifelong learning, they exhibit that, particularly in the summer as they grow. I want to thank everybody who's working to ensure about that opening day. We have a lot of folks out in the schools doing things and preparing, and so as we come into August, we're excited about what 17 and 18 will be. And so with that, sir, I would ask that we could have a closed session for personnel.
Okay. The next item is for an executive session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, paragraph A6 for personnel. Motion by Ms. Cherry, second by Mr. Dedman. All those in favor, show by raising your hand. And we are going to closed session. We are back in open session. We have some business after our executive session, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I would request the appointment of Dr. Vinaya Littlejohn as an assistant principal with a 2-year contract.
Motion by Mr. Ushery, second by Ms. Cherry. Any discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor show by raising your hand, and it's unanimous.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Booker.
Thank you for your support on that. Next, I would like to be authorized to provide a 4-year principal contract to Cindy Hester.
All right, motion by Ms. Cherry, second by Mr. Dedman. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor show by raising your hand, and that's unanimous.
Members of the board, Ms. Hester will be serving as the principal of Southwest Middle School. So
Okay.
that's all the motions I have.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Booker. Any more business? If none, Mr. Dedman? Motion to adjourn, Mr. Dedman, second by Ms. Cherry. All those in favor show by raising your hand, and we are adjourned.